Thank you, Jersey. Don't even have to ask that anymore. You're always Johnny on the spot with that. All right, so how's everybody doing tonight? Fat and old, ain't we all? Well, I shouldn't say all, but me. All right, so I'd like to welcome everybody out tonight. What we're going to do is sort of like a continuation of what we were doing last week. Last week we went over the some triads, some shapes and stuff. So what I wanted to do tonight was just go over some like popular song riffs that are made up of triads. And so there's a link in the description where you can download the tabs for this. So in the tabs, I not only put, the tab, but it also says what triad is that you're actually playing, and if it's in the root position or the first or the second inversion. So it's a kind of a good way to help you to memorize the shapes for one. They're cool riffs, and to just kind of really be able to see how you can use them. So for the tabs, there's three. I think there's 3 or 4 riffs. I can't remember now. And but obviously there's like a whole bunch more. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, we did the one that was like on song intros, and one of the ones we did was that end of the line, that traveling wheelberries. That's not in here, but if you want to get the tabs for that, it's like I said, it was like a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, that is completely made up of these same shapes we did. So for those of you who are here that learned that, or maybe you already know how to do it, that first chord was it was the major shape in the second inversion. So it's the one that looks like a D major chord. And we have a first inversion, second inversion. So it's kind of cool when you can see how you can use them and how you can apply them into just everyday playing. Like I probably told you guys last week, when I first learned triads, my guitar teacher just like, okay, here's all the shapes, and I learned them, and we never did anything with them, never like really applied it to anything. So for the longest time, I wasn't sure if it was like just useless information or secret information that nobody else knew or something. But yeah, so I just want you guys to be able to actually utilize them and stuff. Oh, the thing I was just playing, that's that end of the line by Traveling Wheelberries. We did it, like I said, a couple of weeks ago. All right, yeah, so be sure to get the tab so you can follow along, and let's get cracking. Before we do that, though, actually, how many people here tonight were here last week when we did the first part of this triads lesson? And I guess actually even like kind of a better question, or an additional question, is for those of you who were here, did you learn the triads? Did you learn the shapes? Hi, MJ. Yeah, so oh, hi, Chris. All right, so you and MJ both weren't here last week, and that's okay. This isn't something that you won't be able to follow along with what we're doing anyway. But I would go back to that previous one and get the tabs so that way you have those shapes and everything. All right. So the first one we're going to look at is from Run Like Hell, Pink Floyd. So this is like at the beginning of the song where he's doing the thing with just like pedaling the D string with a delay and stuff. We're not going to do all of that part. We're just going to do after the drums and the bass comes in, then it goes into the that's the part we're going to go over because those are the triads. So the very first one is a first inversion. And so we're here, I'm on the 11th fret of the G string with my middle finger, and my first finger is just barring the 10th fret of the B and high E string. So so since this is the first inversion, it puts our root up at the top. So this is our root right here is a D, and then our fifth here is F sharp, and then our A is the third. But in this case also, it's also playing the open D string. So since it's even though it's still playing the open D string, it's still in the first inversion because technically our root would be up here. We're just getting the D twice. So we play that, and it's the strum for this is kind of weird. It's an eighth note and then a quarter note, or excuse me, an eighth note, then a 16th note, and then another eighth note, basically. So you do like long, short, long, and then we're going to go to our next chord, which is a A over D. So what we've got is a second inversion A major. So here, since it's the second inversion, it puts our here's E. So it's like, I guess we just look at that first. When we play like an A major chord, we do that little trick we did last time. Here's A. So it's A, C sharp, and E. E is our 5. So here we've got our 5, our 1, and our 3. And but we're still playing the open D string, so it's still, that's why it's A/D, because we got a D in the bass. So when we strum that chord, it's actually coming in on what would that be? Like the and of 2, and it ring, or no, it would be even more than that. Coming in on the downbeat of 2, and then it's tied to the rest of that measure, plus it's tied to a whole note of the next measure, so it rings out for a minute. Now for our next one, we've got a G shape, and again, but it's a slash chord because D's in the bass. All of these have a D in the bass. So the only time it doesn't say slash is if it is a D voicing, because it wouldn't be like D/D. Whoops. So it's that same shape. We're just going to move it down a whole step. So now we're on the 7th fret of the G and high E strings with our first and second fingers, and the 8th fret of the B string with our third finger. So it's just like the regular D shape. Now, since this one here is a G, and we're in the second inversion, It's just like what we did before. Here's 5, 1, and 3. 5, 1, 3. So far. Now the next one we're going to go to is just an A, and it's in the root position. So this is the very first one we learned last week, the C major one like this. So we're moving it up a whole step here. So we're on the 7th fret of the G and the B string and the 5th fret of the high E string. But again, that open D string, so technically it's a slash chord. So, whoops. Oops. Now we're here. Our first inversion shape again, 6th fret on the G string, 5th on the B and the high E. And we're going to move that down a whole step. And I keep wanting to start with the wrong chord on this. I've got that other song stuck in my head. Try that again. Man. There we go. Then, just like a regular A chord. So we talked about last week that's a second inversion shape, and we're just barring the 2nd fret of the D, G, and B string. But in this case, we've got the open low E or open A string. Now this one here, it's 2 16th notes and then an 8th note, so it's like too quick. Da 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 da, then just a regular D. So technically, when you play just the D chord, probably one of the very first chords you learn is technically a second inversion major triad. So the whole thing, and I will attempt to do it without destroying it. Just like that. So, like I said, this makes a good exercise for memorizing the shapes. And it's a cool riff. Now, one of the things that I personally took from this this particular song, this section of it, is that there's this melody. So it's like just basically following the major scale. So that's like the high melody on this. So that's where one of the things that's cool you can use with these triad shapes is that if you come up with some kind of a melody line, you can form chords around it. Now, if that's actually how they wrote that, I have no idea. I kind of doubt it, but still, you could do that. You can kind of reverse engineer it and like come up with your own stuff based from that. All right, so that's our first one, Run Like Hell, Pink Floyd. So does anybody have any questions about that or just anything? I actually intended before I jumped right into this just to ask for those of you who were here last week, if you have any questions about triads in general, about what we went over, or even if you weren't here and you have questions, feel free to ask and I'll try to answer them for you. You tried. There is no try. There's only do. Just like what Yoda says. Now, so what were you having problems with? I mean, were you actually having problems playing the shapes, or is it the memorization, or the memorization thing I can get down with because I have a hard time memorizing stuff now. My memory sucks. Lost in space. Okay. I was planning on doing this yesterday, but last week I told you guys that I was going to do my clutch over the weekend. Yeah, I did. And the cherry picker, the ram on it, I got a brand new one, and I didn't bleed the air out of it, and it ended up collapsing and caught my hand. So my hand got squashed between um, the front bumper support and the motor. Motor only dropped about that far, just enough to really munch my hand and give me a gnarly blood blister. Could have been a lot worse. Can't move your fingers quickly. Okay, that doesn't really matter. So if you mean for like trying to play this riff, for playing the, is that what you mean? Because if that's the case, don't worry about trying to play it fast. I would just do is work with that little exercise we did, like root position, first inversion, second inversion, first inversion, root position. Just kind of work with that with the different shapes, and that'll help you to get to where you can do it quick, do it quicker. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with playing stuff slow. If you're trying to play a song, let's say that's 100 beats a minute, and you can play it really good at 70 beats a minute, but when you go to 100 beats a minute, it's not, you can't do well anymore. That's it's better to play it slow, so the timing and everything is correct. Even if someone's listening and it's like, oh, that sounds slow, it still sounds better than if the timing's wrong and things like that. All right, so let's I guess we can move on to the second one I'll look at. And what it was, I wanted to get them that went all onto different strings and stuff. So there is a couple more that we'll do in the future that are a little bit more advanced than the ones that we're looking at right now. But the one I want to look at now is actually the verse riff from Crazy Train from Ozzy. So this is like, not the, but it's after that, that part, because it is made up out of triads as well. But these shapes, instead of just being on just the first three strings, now we're moving up to the shapes that are on the D, G, and B string. So the first one we have is a root position A major. So the major shape that we learned on these strings last week was G major here. 5th fret on the D string, 4th fret on the G string, 3rd fret on the B string. So we need A major. So we're just going to take that shape and we're just going to move it up a whole step. So now we're 7, 6, and 5. So that's our first chord. So this is all just like pedaled around the open A string. We have an 8th and then 2 16th notes. So it's like a long, short, short. And then we hit that chord. So that's on when we hit that A there, that's on the downbeat of 2. And then we have 3 more of them pedals again. Then we have an E chord. Now, this is in the first inversion. So 3rd finger on the 6th fret of the D string. 1st finger on the 4th fret of the G string. And 2nd finger on the 5th fret of the B string. So then after that, oh yeah, okay. Then it goes to, it has 4 pedals. These ones are all equal 16th notes. So it's 4E and then we're gonna come down and we're gonna do a D in the first inversion. So it's the same shape. We're just gonna move it down. So now we're on the 4th fret of the D string with your 3rd finger, 2nd fret of the G string with your 1st finger, and 3rd fret of the B string with your 2nd finger. And then it goes to just an A5. And then this is funny. This part of this song, I always play it wrong. He actually goes to he does the A, and then he goes to the 3rd fret on the G string, and he slides, or excuse me, the 3rd fret on the low E. It's a G. And he slides up a half step, and then back to the A. So it's like, and I always end up going, I bend it to that pitch. I don't know why I've always played it that way. Every time I look at the transcription, I remember, oh yeah, it's a slide. Yeah, so that's basically that one. Yeah, I agree, Paul. That's a cool sounding chord. I like it. All right, now with this particular one too, what's cool about it is that you get kind of multiple riffs that you can play out of this, because not only is this Crazy Train, it's also Jack and Diane from John Mellencamp. It's also Don't Treat Me Bad by Firehouse. I couldn't think of the name. Let's see. But you probably already seen that before. There's lots and lots of songs that are the same. They're like the same riff, same chord progression. I mean, how many songs are G, C, and D? Tons and tons of them. All right, so anybody have any questions about that riff, or just about Triad stuff in general? Which Firehouse? I belong to Station 42. Oh, you belong to Station 42. Can I put in my order now? I'd like two Italian footlongs, some baked lays. That's the Firehouse you're talking about, right? All right. Well, if nobody has any questions or anything, I guess we can move along. We might be done early tonight if nobody's got any if nobody has any questions or anything. I know, Jersey. I was just jerking your chain. Yes, Firehouse is a killer band. They one of the things I thought was really awesome about them, I saw and I was like Behind the Music or one of them things, some kind of a documentary about them quite a while ago. Anyway, when they were auditioning members, not only did they have to be able to play their instrument well, but they had to be able to sing, and that's why they've got all those really awesome 4-part harmonies and stuff. It's pretty cool. All right, so the next one we're going to look at is another like Firehouse, another band from like the 80s, but this is like kind of earlier 80s. But it's from a song called Wait by White Lion. And you guys remember White Lion? The guitar player for White Lion was freaking sick. He was really, really good. And this song, this whole intro is all made up of triads. And it kind of does this. It's kind of a similar thing like the Pink Floyd one, where it's using the highest note to make this like kind of a little chordal melody that it follows down. It's pretty neat. Yes, Vito Bratta. He is the Shin Dizzle. All right, so this first one here, we start off. We've just got a D major shape on the first 3 strings in root position. So it's just like the very first one we learned, a C, but we're going to do it up here a whole step. Vito Bratta from, he's from Staten Island. Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, Jersey, this is the 80s. Well, this song is from the 80s anyway. Yeah, so one thing I am going to do different, though, in this to make it to make these transitions a little bit easier is that I'm not just going to be like right now I've got my 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the G string and my 4th finger on the 7th fret of the B string. And my 1st finger, normally I would just have it here on the 5th fret of the high E. But I'm actually going to bar it so it's going across the 5th fret of the B and the high E string. And now the reason for this is because we go from this A in root position to an E in, we're going from a D in root position to an A in the first inversion. So he's just arpeggiating this, just starting on the high E string, going E, B, G. So it's like E, B, G, E, B, G, E, B. So that's one measure. 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and then we go to the A in the first inversion. So what makes this super easy is that we already have our first finger barring those 2 strings, right? So now we're just going to take our middle finger and set it down here onto the 6th fret of the G string and remove these 2 fingers. Whoops. And we have our first inversion A. So yeah, so I guess if we look at this, like think about these, the 1st string, 2nd string, 3rd string. So we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And then we just switch to that A. So take these fingers off, put our middle finger down here, 6th fret the G string, and our first finger is already, that's why we lined it up earlier. Same picking, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Then we're simply just going to move down a whole step and do the exact same thing. So now I'm going to come down and I'm going to bar the 3rd fret of the B and high E and 3rd finger onto the 5th fret of the G, 4th finger on the 5th fret of the B. And you can actually go ahead and just put your middle finger down now if you want to, and then lift these off. But I have muscle memory to do it like that. So same picking. But now this time here we were D, A, C, G. Now we're just going to move it down a whole step again. So now we're barring the 1st fret of the B and the high E and the 3rd fret of the G and the B. And then just end on an A. So that's like the little intro part for the song. Now, I didn't include the rest of this intro, and now I wished I would have, because it's always just hard to know whether or not it's going to be too much material or not enough material. So we could have went on with it, but I can just show you the stuff, because you have those chords. So the first one we've got here, we've got the major shape from with the root on the B, G, and D strings. So this is like the first position from last week, but we're going to move it up here so it's an A. So we display that shape, but we also include the open A string and the open high E string, like that. Then he just simply takes his middle finger off so the G string is open. Now we come down to that one that was the second, or the third chord in Crazy Train. So. Now the difference here is so if we really want to look at it that way, by playing this, in a sense, we're playing a regular D chord, but we're putting our bass note as an F sharp. F sharp's in the chord. Just easier to play it that way. Okay, I couldn't remember what that other chord was. So this one here, trying to cross this one with Crazy Train now. So now we've got another one that's based off of the D, G, and B string, but we're just adding this open string in around it, and the high E there too. Yeah, so I think we talked a little bit about that last week, how you can take the shape and play it somewhere, and then just try adding in open strings that are near, the adjacent open strings, or just like adding other notes that you can just reach and just do it by sound of, something sounds good. It is good. Oh, you're welcome, Mike. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So that is the last one. Like I said, I wish that I would have included the rest of that, rest of the tab on that particular song, but I did not. All of this fancy stuff. What fancy stuff are you referring to? All right. So does anybody? Thanks, Jersey. So does anybody have any questions? And it doesn't even necessarily need to be about this, just guitar-related questions. We still have some time. His ads. I don't get it. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. Um. Hi, Brian. Yeah. The reason that I'm using a clean tone, like for most of the time lately, is my I've got like a little practice amp that I'm playing out of right now. But it's got something wrong with it. When you switch it to the overdrive channel, it is so freaking loud. It's just unbelievable. Right now, this is turned down as low as it goes with the clean tone. It's like stupid loud. Something's wrong with it. And then the other amps that I usually use, I just set up my live rig in here. My power amp, there's something wrong with it, so I'm not getting any juice out of it. I need to fix it. But under normal circumstances and stuff, as a general rule, I really kind of like to just use I like amps that the distortion sound in the amp sounds good. Not that I have anything against pedals, but it's just what I've found for the most part is that if the amp just by itself doesn't sound good, it's really hard to try to really make it sound good using a pedal and stuff. It's not like a magic like fix all kind of a thing for it. But when I've used pedals in the past, I still actually have the very first pedal I ever got is a distortion pedal. I'd show it to you, but I know it's sitting around here somewhere. But it was a DOD super distortion that I've had since probably about 1985, 84. Anyway, always liked that. But right now, if it was a thing, I could just, if I had to use one and I could get whatever I'd want, I'd probably get a Boss DS1 or a Ibanez Tube Screamer, a TS9 one if you can get it. I really like those ones a lot. And then there's also this, I can't remember the brand. I messed around with one at the NAMM show one year. It was just a really small little pedal, and it was called a Rat. And I really liked the way that one sounded. I'm a firm believer in the theory that electronics were built to be thrown up against a wall on occasion. Well, the electronics inside of a computer, I can totally get down with that. But yeah, that's my take on it. I really like, I like an amp that can really sound good on its own. But if you're going to use one, I like those are the ones that I really recommend and like. Yeah, DS1. That's a good one. I've got this little amp that I've been wanting to show you guys for a while, and I just haven't gotten around to bringing it down here. But it's got like all kinds of sick tone, and it's this big. Maybe next time I'll bring that so you can check it out. It's pretty cool. Oh, well, that's awesome, Brian. Yeah. So yeah, if you have an original TS9 from the 80s, like, protect that thing at all costs. They're getting hard to come by. But both of those I think are really. So, oh, you mean you prefer the Marshall? You prefer the sound of the Marshall itself over the sound of the DS1? And if that's what you're saying, then that's like more or less what I was talking about. That's what I like. Hi, Alan. Maestro Fuzz. Yeah, I've never heard of that. I've never really messed around with fuzz pedals a lot. But a little while back, I was talking to an old friend of mine on the phone, and that's all he keeps telling me is that, man, it's all about the fuzz. You got to get a fuzz. And so one of these days, I guess I'll have to get one. Yeah, I mean, so what I was meaning by the whole thing with the amp having the good sound. Okay, so like you take a Marshall, and not just any Marshall, because they are not all created equal. I've played through some that I didn't like at all, and other ones I thought sounded good. But usually, if the amp itself, the built-in distortion is good, then when you use a pedal or whatever, you know that you're gonna get a good sound. Even if you're on the clean tone, like say you're running like the overdrive channel and the clean channel with a distortion pedal because you want like a different tone or something, they always will sound good. And if it's a good amp, the pedal doesn't even need to be like super fantastic to really get a good sound. You can get a good sound with a kind of a crappy pedal if you have a really good amp. But honestly, I don't even really use a lot of pedals. Uh, for my live setup, I have an Engel. I can never remember the model. An Engel 530 modern player, a 2 preamp, and then an 80A MP1, or actually no, it's the 80B 200S power amp, and then I have a Boss GT8, and I'd run everything with that, and it's just, I used to have lots and lots of pedals, but this is much quieter, and it's certainly a lot easier to pick up and set up and move around. Less geared. The older I get, the less shit I want to carry around. In fact, going live in the future, if I ever play out again, I probably won't even bring my rack, and I'll just bring the GT8 and a DI box run direct. All right. So does anybody else have any questions or anything? Also goes with distortion pedals too. It also kind of depends on, I guess, on what kind of a sound you're trying to get too. That kind of goes along with the whole debate over solid state amps or tube amps. It's not just the equipment; it's also the player too that can create that. A lot of the stuff with that sound. I mean, the first time I heard Pantera, I would have assumed that he was playing through like a Mesa head or something, and it was a Randall solid state, and he had killer tone. I don't know, Jersey. I never know ahead of time. I'm just doing this by the seat of my pants. What would you guys like to see covered? Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. You have a good one too, and hopefully I'll see you in the next week, the next stream. More Nazareth songs. I don't even have to look. I know that's Alan. All right, we'll have to see what we can do about that. All right, but I'd like to thank everybody that came out tonight. I appreciate the support and stuff. If you like what I'm doing, click the thumbs up button, leave a comment, like the channel, subscribe to the channel. You know the drill. It all really helps with that whole YouTube algorithm thing, and it helps the channel to know that I'm doing a good job for them and that I can keep my job. So, and don't forget, get your tabs for this lesson and everything, so you have all that stuff. And between this and the last one I did, that's a lot of material. Like that would be something that, like in private lessons, might take 4 sessions to go over all that stuff to really work with it. So I'm trying to give you guys some good information. All right. Yeah. So again, everybody, I really appreciate you coming out. And if you do have ideas or whatever for things, just leave them in the comments. You can comment, even after, it's no longer live. You can leave comments. Like the live chat won't work, but you can leave comments on the actual video. And, leave comments on there if you have suggestions for things like you'd like to see covered, subject matter. And it doesn't even have to be lessons. It could be just like when we've, sat and, we debated about guitar players and we've done maintenance, it's changing strings and different things like that. So, let me know the kind of stuff that you want to see, and I'll try to bring it to you. Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for coming out. Hope everybody has a great night and a great weekend, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks.